I'm a Iowa State Cyclones fan, and the rebuild has begun for one of Iowa State's most important positions. My name is PJ Caldwell. Welcome back to Cyclone Kingdom, live from California. We're out here on vacation, but the content doesn't stop, and neither do we. The offensive line preview for Iowa State football going into 2026 and 27. It's an important position for Iowa State. Everything flows out of how your offensive line is. And the reality for Iowa State right now is with the turnover of the roster, there's not a lot to latch on to. Now, Coach Thornton comes over from Auburn. Auburn is a very good SEC school, or not this great SEC school, though shout out Coach Golish. Hopefully that he gets them back to SEC championship contention over there. But bringing Coach Thornton over from Auburn was one of the best offensive lines in college football last year. Didn't have a lot to show for it just because of the rest of their roster. He comes over and he brings with him some offensive linemen through recruiting, through transfers, to give Iowa State some type of hope, I guess, going into this next season. You don't have a lot of returning starters. You don't have a lot of guys that you can really latch on to. Right? We put out a tweet and some videos on our TikTok and our YouTube shorts if you want to go check that out. But one of the points that I made was there's a lot of talent in this room, but there's not a lot to latch on to yet. Similar to what we talked about with Jimmy Rogers and the coaching staff, it's going to take a couple years for Iowa State to get back into that Big 12 championship contention, winning 8, 9, 10 games. Iowa State had only won 10 games once prior to 2024, and Matt Campbell got them there. So it was actually the first time in program history they had got to 10 games. They went 9-3 with Dan McCarney. So a lot of first times had happened for Iowa State. Similar with the offensive line, there's going to be a lot of first timers new to Iowa State football. And so because of that, rather than going through each player and each individual of what can they bring to Iowa State and all this different stuff, because they're so unknown, because offensive line is often so undervalued by a lot of people, I want to kind of give us a gauge of what the future would look like. What does the future look like for the Iowa State offensive line? Keep in mind, this is a position group that during those premium Matt Campbell years, 2020 to 2024, Iowa State had some NFL offensive linemen. Think about Tyler Miller most recently, right? You think about guys like Trevor Bohr that are now at Penn State. There's a lot of guys, Brendan Black. I mean, so many guys come to mind that were a part of something special within Iowa State. Breece Hall was only as good as his offensive line. I know Breece Hall's a top 10, top 15 college football running back of all time, which he is. He's only as good if his line blocks for him, right? What he's doing now with the Jets is unheard of because the Jets' offensive line is nothing to look twice at. They're very porous in the way that they block. But Breece Hall is also just that good. So what does the future look like for Iowa State offensive linemen now? Well, Will Slagle comes in next year, and that's huge. So even as we're previewing this year, I think it's helpful to look towards the future because while Iowa State's O-line might not be the best this year, they might be actually one of the worst in the Big 12, unfortunately. What they bring to the table this year is a competitiveness and a desire to get Iowa State football back. Think about the Paul Rhodes years, right? Prior to Matt Campbell, where Matt Campbell came in 2016 and he had to basically rebuild and bring in a notion among Iowa State football that they can actually compete with the best. Trust the process, right? That's what we heard. And although it's kind of been lost on us most recently because of Matt Campbell's actions, it's still true that you have to trust the process. And he had a lot of great quotes about that. Paul Rhodes and the guys that he brought in were a part of that resurgence with Matt Campbell. We're a part of that Iowa State football being the best for the first time since the Seneca Wallace days. Some of those guys were from Paul Rhodes' recruitment. Some of those guys were from Paul Rhodes' transfers coming in. Alan Lazard was a Paul Rhodes guy. He wasn't a Matt Campbell guy. Similarly, the guys that Jimmy Rogers is bringing in now, we may not see for 1 to 2 years. a.k.a. Will Slagle, right? That's a guy that is going to change the face of Iowa State O-line. He just is. What does that mean for this year? What it means for this year is there's going to be some growing pains. Iowa State fans need to expect it. There's a reality before us that Iowa State is not going to be very good this year. If they are, it's because the offensive line completely shocked us and shocked the nation. And it would also mean that Iowa State football is really good in year one. I don't see that happening. I see Iowa State football going through the mud a little bit. We'll go through our official season preview. Make sure you like and subscribe for all Chiefs and Cyclones content. We got season previews coming out soon, official record predictions, official win-loss record. But Iowa State football in their O-line is going to get eaten up a little bit. Think about the Iowa game. You think about the Utah game. Think about the BYU game. They're going to get eaten up a little bit. But if they can just have a competitiveness about them, to not get embarrassed, that is going to give Cyclone Nation as a whole some hope going into next season when you got Will Slagle coming in, and then who knows what other offensive linemen decide to come to Ames because of Will Slagle. Will Slagle is a 4-star guy. So as a 2026-27 offensive line preview, you got to look to 27-28 and realize the guys that are in the building right now, Will Slagle saw enough, either from Coach Thornton or from the guys in the building already, to say, I want to stay committed to Iowa State. Remember, he decommitted after Matt Campbell left and then still recommitted because he knew what was going on here. Guys, there's people know something about Jimmy Rogers within the building. There's some type of confidence where you can recruit up to 30 guys already. It's unheard of in college football today, especially the 3-star, 4-star guys. Chuck Alexander just comes. So he just decommitted from Louisville and committed to Iowa State. This is what is happening. So as you think about the offensive line, think about the future. Don't get so up in arms about this year because it's going to be rough, guys. I'm preparing you. And I got to prepare myself as well. It's going to be rough. But that doesn't mean that it's not going to be good soon. Iowa State's offensive line can be good very soon, even if it's not this year. So how would we rank it? 1 out of 10. As we finish the offense and move on to the defense this week, how would we rank Iowa State's offensive line 1 to 10? I'm going to put it right where the tight ends are. It's a 4. It's a 4 out of 10. That's fair. I think that's even generous considering you had to replace your entire offensive line basically. But again, have hope that something's going to happen sooner rather than later to get the trenches of Iowa State football back to the top. Make sure you like and subscribe for all Chiefs and Cyclones content. Yes, we're on vacation, but we don't stop around here. There is no off season. We love putting out college football and NFL content for the Chiefs and for the Cyclones. So appreciate you guys following along. Make sure you follow us on all of our socials over on X, on TikTok, and check out Cyclone Central, our official exclusive Iowa State Cyclones podcast, where we're doing a lot of great work over there. And as always, roll Clones. And how about those Chiefs?